Hi, everyone.
It's the Hollywood Squares.
Yes, it is.
Or the Brady Bunch minus a few people.
We could be that too.
I think most of us are recovering Catholics.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to Sisters of the Mystical Tarot. And with me, I have my sisters. I have Val from Dragonfly Crystals. I have Allie from Heart and Soul Connected. Ooh, and hold on, let me turn that down. Thank you. And then underneath me, I have Sharon from Strawberry Rhubarb. And then we have down there Allison from Aries Girl Tarot. And bringing up the rear, last but not least, is Sherry, Voices from the Swamp.
Yeah, I'm usually the butt of it, so that works.
Good. So I hope everyone is doing well, doing fine. You're having a good day so far.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll take it.
I had to run back through the day in my head and say, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I made it this far. It's all good. So we've got Pisces Greeter is here, Janet P., Linda Thompson, Colorful Foresight. And hello to all the folks that are just kind of sitting back there going, okay.
Heather.
Heather's
Oh, Heather's here. Yes, of course, Heather. So, yeah, welcome to all of you. I hope that you're going to find today to be, somewhat
Notifications
informative.
just went out.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So we'll get people to come in. We are simulcasting to all channels. Okay.
Oh, right.
Except Allison, right? Or
yeah.
Hey, Wayne.
Yeah. But you guys can, you can watch it in replay and all that other good stuff and whatnot. So, and hello, Wayne Rich. Nice to see you here. So, what I thought, because I'm hosting the show this week, as you all know, we take turns. So, what I thought we would do today is to just kind of keep it on the light side. And I wanted to talk about the impact that elementary school has on all of us. That's our first real kind of experience of dealing with other people and different personalities and people telling us what to do other than our parents and all that kind of good stuff. So there's 3 questions that I thought that we'd kind of get into. And the first one is, who was your favorite elementary school teacher and why? The second question is, what did you learn in elementary school that you still use today? And last but not least, how did your elementary school experience contribute to who you are today? So, we all have stories. For some people, elementary school was a lot of fun. For others, not so much, right? And I think all those things kind of have an effect on us. So, we can get started. Val, you're right next to me. You wanna start?
Sure.
And I want to ask you guys, do you want to do the questions like one at a time, each take turn answering number 1 and then go to number 2?
Give us a little more time. Yeah.
And I like that.
Okay. All right.
So who was my favorite elementary school teacher and why? That would be Miss Lyons, who read us books like The Boxcar Children, and it gave me that opportunity to use my great imagination. And I did not love elementary school. So this was an escape, and I enjoyed the adventure and living through the life as you hear it, like with Boxcar Children. So that was my highlight of that year of elementary school.
Cool.
That's all I've got.
Perfect.
That was it.
Perfect. And you, Allie?
Grew up in a small town, and so my elementary school was first and second in the same room, third in the one room, and downstairs in the basement was fourth grade. And so my first grade teacher's name was Mrs. Blunt, and she was very short and very motherly. So she was a perfect person for me to have as a teacher. And once a week, the music teacher would come into the class, and his name was Mr. Gene Grasso. I remember that like it was yesterday. And we would sit around and sing songs, and that was what you did. So yeah, so that was my experience. I love my first grade teacher. My second grade teacher was awful. My third grade teacher was the principal, and my fourth grade teacher, so yeah, he's the best. Yeah.
I get it. And you, Sharon?
I would say, now I went to Catholic school from grade 1 to grade 5, and my favorite was Sister Mary Bernadette in grade 4. She was such a sweetheart. And then I'd say I will say my worst was, I don't even remember her name, but in grade 2, she was the Nazi. We were just so.
What is it about second grade? Yeah.
Terrified of her, but she did some really damaging things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I don't want to go into it. It's actually really, really, it was awful. But Sister Mary Bernadette was just a breath of fresh air. And I liked the way she swished into the room, and she was always full of light and love. And she was a sweetheart.
Cool.
Perfect. And you, Allison?
Kindergarten and first grade was horrible. So we're just going to skip that. Second grade, she was okay. Looking back, I'm pretty sure she was an alcoholic. Third grade, we're going to go there. Mrs. Campbell, she was fabulous. She actually looked quite a bit like Val. And I'm just now realizing that. I'm like, oh my God, Val looks so much like Mrs. Campbell. Which is a good thing. She was lovely, and she was always very happy, and she was very positive. She, even like if some kids were acting out, she had the best way of just like redirecting things. She never punished, she didn't yell, she didn't get angry, but she handled things, and she was consistent, which is the best thing that you really can do, in my opinion. Fourth grade was quite good as well. And just real quick, super quick detour. My son, I made certain he had an excellent experience in school because of how bad some of my grades were. My son went to a private Waldorf school. I realize not everybody can afford that, but he had a beautiful experience. I mean, amazing. I wanted to stay and be there.
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, that was my experience. And, yeah, I'd say probably 50% of the teachers were horrible that I had, and the other 50 were really good. It was right down the middle. But that was the 70s, and the farther back you go, the worse it gets. So, yeah.
I must say that these days, and when I was teaching, you had many more great teachers. So it wasn't like when we went to school.
Yeah. A lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things.
It was horrible, some of the things that these teachers got away with. Just
Yeah.
today, they wouldn't. They'd be
Yes,
fired. And
absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And how about you, Sherry?
Well, I remember my first grade teacher, Mrs. Hargraves, and I remember her only because she was like the Wicked Witch of the West. I mean, she didn't look like her, but boy, did she act like her. Just not a good experience. And I don't really remember my second and third grade teachers. And then we were talking before, and I said something about going to Catholic school in fifth grade, but it was actually in fourth grade that I went to Catholic school, and for just the 1 year. And out of all of the nuns that were there, my favorite was Sister Shawn. She was very young, probably early 20s. I don't think she was up to 25 yet, but she was one of those just exuberant, happy, just when she came into a room, the whole room lit up, that was just her personality. And within minutes, she'd have the whole classroom giggling and laughing and cutting up. And,
that's a teacher.
other nuns would come over to try to hush us down. And we would just get more unruly, and she would just lift a finger, and everybody would get quiet because Sister Sean asked us to be quiet. And that's all. And it kind of, I think, ticked off some of the other nuns.
Yeah.
But she was just such a pleasant woman. And then my 5th grade year, I went back into public school, and the teacher I had, we were in the Montessori teaching method in that school.
Mhm.
And so it was 2 classrooms in one with 2 teachers, and they would split the subjects up. And I don't remember either of their names, but again, it was the younger teacher who looked like somebody that came straight out of a CoverGirl commercial, with the long black hair and the porcelain looking skin, and just very, very sweet, very young. And I remember her because she decided that we needed to have our literary chops expanded, so to speak.
Yep.
And so she began with reading Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Isn't that the name of it? I think. And she read that book aloud to us. She would read a chapter a day. And she got real sick like halfway through the book, and literally was homebound. And so, because we were all bummed out, we couldn't finish the book. One of the other teachers went to her house, and she read the rest of the book into a tape recorder.
Aw.
Sent the tape to school. And so every day during our reading hour, the substitute teacher would just press play, and we'd sit and listen to the next chapter of the book. And I just remember, because the end of the book is very sad. And of course, everyone in the classroom is crying. But I think we cried harder because we could hear her crying, trying to read the end of the book. And her voice was cracking. And I think that was probably the first time that the importance of book reading really hit me. I mean, I grew up reading. My mother read all the time. So we were always at the library, but it was just something to do. It didn't mean a whole lot to me until after that class. And it changed my whole outlook on reading the book. And,
That's beautiful.
Did anyone in the group? Did anyone in this group, as a mom, read a Robert Munch story called "Forever Always Your Baby"? Oh, I can't remember, but it was about a mother's love, and I couldn't get through it without crying. It was just so beautiful and touching. And I can remember I would hand the book to my mother when she came to visit, and first time she read it, and she got to a part where you start to cry. She looked at me and she says, "You bum."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful book.
I remember my first grade teacher was absolutely lovely. And her name was Mrs. Cartolano. And she was your typical little, if you think of the little Italian lady, that was her, right? She was she was as round as she was tall, and she, very, very motherly and engaging with the classroom. And the one thing that I remember just vividly was I had actually started school in Croatia. I had done grade 1 and grade 2 in Croatia. So when we came to Canada, I went back to grade 1 because I didn't speak any English. So, kind of start. And my birthday is in October. So school started, and my mom said, it would be a really nice thing if you would invite your teacher over for your birthday. And so I did. And she came. She actually came to our house. She brought me a little gift. It was like a little purse that the bottom of it was kind of solid, but the top had a drawstring on it. And it was some kind of, it looked like animal, whatever, skin or whatnot. I held on to that thing for I can't tell you how many years because it just meant so much to me, and it was such a lovely introduction, um, yeah, to the school and to everything else. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. The first um, teacher back in Croatia, I honestly can't remember, but I do. The only thing that I do remember is it was extremely regimented. Like there was laughing in the classroom. Oh no, no, no. Talking between whatever. No, no, no. So I can identify with a lot of your with the Catholic school comments because yes, I went to Catholic schools here in Canada, and yeah, the older nuns were very much by the book. Children should be seen and not heard, and corporal punishment was absolutely okay,
So sad.
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and you know what? They were doing what everyone was doing at the time.
Yeah, they didn't
And
know
I
how to kids or how to train them.
no, because a lot of them became nuns because they were like spinsters and they had to do something. So, they went into being nuns and
Well, they certainly didn't have any teachers training.
no,
Not the ones I
I
had.
agree.
no,
Yes, and God forbid they go out and get an actual job and work for themselves.
no.
Make their
Well,
own
and
money.
you got to remember in the 50s, 60s, that I'm talking like, from 65 on up, there really wasn't a lot of opportunities for women.
No,
That so you kind of
being a teacher or a nurse was about the extent of
that
what you
was
could
it.
do as a
Yeah,
woman. Yeah.
yeah, that was it. So it was yeah, I just to this day, and I don't want to tell you how many years ago that was, I still remember Mrs. Cartolano, and I still remember she came to my birthday. And that was just
That's
amazing.
sweet.
Yeah. So we'll just kind of move on a little. And Val, what did you learn in elementary school that you still use today?
What I learned on so many different levels, but what I can say is reading, mathematics, or they call it arithmetic. That's what I learned. Now, on another subject, I can say I learned. Oh, I don't know what that buzzing is. I hear a buzzing. I hope it's not me. I'm going to mute to see if it's me.
Okay.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay, good.
It
So-
sounds like running water.
Oh, maybe so. I learned how to be independent because I was a very shy girl and didn't make friends really well. I was just lucky that I was befriended by people. I couldn't go up to anybody. I barely talked. So
Yeah.
I
I
learned
bet you were a teacher's pet, weren't you?
not at all. I was terrible. I never paid attention in school at all. It was like I was marking time till I got out of there.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I read and write so well, but somehow it got absorbed. But what do I use? I use the reading. I use the arithmetic. What do I use? I use the independence and boundaries I learned as a child in a situation where I couldn't even speak and make friends. I learned how to entertain myself.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And how about you, Allie?
Well, as I'm sitting here thinking back on it, it's a lot of trauma. The day that the telephone rang and John F. Kennedy was dead, and then the duck and cover. Oh my God! And then the spanking machine in the teacher's room, which wasn't real, and my fourth grade teacher telling me I had a mental block in math and I would never be able to do it. So guess what I ended up with? So
Yeah.
So how I use these today is I try to, if there are things going on in the world, I always bring them up in the classes that I teach, and I don't, veer from them. But the other thing is I tell my students that I was a C student all through high school, all through my undergraduate years. And I was not a good student until I went into my master's program, and they let me in conditionally. And then I was a straight A student. So I really do think teachers can destroy your confidence. I think they can ruin your self-esteem. And I'm a teacher, so I try really hard not to be that person, and to empower people and tell them, you can be a C student, but you can change that and you can still succeed. Yeah. So that's probably what it is. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Sharon?
I want to make a comment about the assassination of President Kennedy. Yeah, I was in grade 3, and the nuns called an assembly. They were all crying.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen them, I'd never seen that before. All the adults were crying, and then going home and seeing it on the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he meant a lot to them.
Yes.
He was the first Catholic, president, so it was huge. On the other hand, I can remember assembly that the Sister Superior called, and they took, I don't know, maybe 3 students, but the one I remember most was a little guy in grade 1. They pulled down his pants and his underwear in front of all of us and strapped him.
Oh my.
And that was burned. That was burned on my brain.
Sure.
Yeah. And the other thing was in grade 2, we're doing choir. They're having us try out for choir. And so the nun's going, oh, you're singing bird, dear. And then they came to me, oh, you're listening bird. Just mouth the words, dear. And I never sang. I mean, I was always super self-conscious. If I ever tried to sing, I'd hear that I was off key. It wasn't until I met my wife, and at age 49, because she was part of a music group, we got together and jammed and sang songs, because I could hear it, had it all around me, was hearing it. All of a sudden, I could sing on pitch. And I learned to sing. So, that joy of singing, so that was given back.
Yes, absolutely.
The other thing, and actually this happened as I went to Catholic school until grade 5. Midway through grade 5, went to a public school because we moved. And I can remember the first time answering a question in class. I got up, I had to put my hand up, of course, got up and crossed myself and gave the answer. And everybody in the room staring at me like, what creature is this?
Right.
But she was a great teacher. She was fantastic. And then in grade 6, I was in a fabulous classroom where it was an English teacher, and she was doing things like reading Narnia to us. And, she was just so different, and all the things she was doing, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But sometime in September, I guess about 2 weeks in, they decided her class was too full. And the principal came in and said, you, took 6 students out. And one of them was me. And I thought it was because I wasn't smart enough. I knew the girls that were in that class. Yeah. And they were really bright, but I could, they were my tribe, right?
Yeah.
And I was pulled out, and I never got over that, so it's I could say other things too, but I'm actually, the good news is my partner, she's a life coach, and she's taking me through these things, these traumas, small, and helping me clear them so that I don't have these blocks. It's fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah. And yet I had other good experiences too. My grade 1 teacher, nun, Sister Miriam Carmel. See, I remember all these names. And I remember she came to me and she looked, and because I was copying something off the board, right? And so she noted to me, she said, you're not, you're looking up at the board and you're not doing it letter by letter. She said, you're doing it word by word. Like I would write, I'd look and then
Yeah.
copy 2 words at a time. And she was just fascinated with that because the other students weren't doing that. So I got signals too that I was really bright. But anyways,
Perfect.
yeah, it was a mixed bag.
And, yeah. And how about you, Allison?
And I just want to comment on that last piece you're saying, Sharon, because
Yeah,
back
yeah,
then
I'm
they
sure
didn't
you were
realize
triggered.
how children all learn different. They're just like
Yep.
adults. We're all completely
Yeah,
different.
Exactly.
Children are all
Exactly.
completely different. They all
Exactly.
learn so many different ways. Another reason I sent my son to Waldorf, he was
Yeah.
seen as an individual, right?
Yeah.
And so, anyhow, we could talk about all this stuff for hours. There's a lot here.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do that.
Exactly.
So,
Well, I must
Yeah.
say, I mean, not all, but I know I certainly did that in my classroom. Everybody was different. I can remember I was
Good.
teaching a grade 4 to 8 class. What a spread, hey! And I was in a computer lab. Anyways, getting the kids to do kind of a journal every day, just a story. And I said, okay, the grade 2s, grade, I told them how long I wanted it to be. What was your minimum requirement? Because you had to do that for a lot of kids because they were lazy. Anyways, one kid, he wrote half a page, and the girl beside him protested, why he's in the same grade as me, why does he get away with only half a page? And so I went and I pulled her out into the hallway and I said, have you ever seen him write that much, ever? And she went, no. I said, that's a win. That's a real win. For him, that is fantastic. For you, that's easy for you. So I said, do you get why it's different? And she went, oh, I never thought of it that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Allison, we'll get back to you.
Yes.
It'd be, I would say for sure, it would be, and I'll save it. I'm not going to go into it. There actually was a slight trauma behind it, the reason that this happened. But
Oh, sure.
my 4th grade teacher, math for sure. I'm very good at multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction in my head. Quite good. And it's because of, it's a bummer. I'll say this. I really loved this teacher. And then one day, and I don't know if she was having a bad day, I'm not even going to tell the whole story. She said something so nasty out of her mouth when we were standing up in line and we were doing like kind of like a spelling bee, but you're doing it with multiplication, right? We were in rows in the classroom or whatever. And I had gotten one wrong. And then she came back around to me again and she asked me the same question again. And I got it wrong again. The same one that I'd gotten the answer from the last time. And she said something to me in front of everybody that was so horrible. I never forgot it, obviously. And I also, it changed the dynamic of our relationship right there. And I still liked her though, because I was little and I was loving and I just didn't know better. But I didn't trust her. I was like, oh, you don't know what she's going to say. You got to be careful with this one. You know what I mean? And I realized she was unstable as soon as she did that. So I didn't have the words for that, but the concept was like, oh, whoa, keep her at an arm's length. But anyhow, multiplication for sure. So in a backwards kind of way, it was good, but I would have rather not be so good at the math and have not had the tear down from her. I was an excellent speller as well. I still am. And other things, not so much, but those are my strong suits.
Yeah. No, perfect. Perfect. And you, Sherry?
Well, I've been sitting here because I don't want to spend the next 10 hours talking about this. I would say the teachers I mentioned earlier that gave me the importance of the love of reading. I mean, my mother taught me to read everything because she devoured books like air.
Yeah.
But it was those couple of teachers in a younger age that it just really hit home the importance of knowing literature, of being able to read. And because of that, because I had read from such an early age, I was always 2 or 3 school terms as far as when they would, do your SATs and your ACTs. I think they were called back then. I don't remember. I was always reading 2 or 3, sometimes 4 levels above where I should have been, just because I read from day one, and I think the biggest thing though that I took with me into being an adult was, I mean, when I was in elementary school, we're talking back in the mid 60s, the middle of the civil rights movement, living in the deep South, there were still water fountains marked colored in white. And there were still bathrooms marked colored in white. Even though we all sat in the classroom together, we couldn't drink from the same water fountain and we couldn't go to the same bathroom as somebody of a different color. And that, I don't know why, but that always just, even at that young of an age, there was something about it. It was like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It was wrong. And when I mentioned it to my mother, she was like, no, that's not right. That's not the way people should be. And so that's, I think, one of the reasons why I tend to go off on rants sometimes when I see people attack other folks for, being gay or being a different color or being a different religion. You in most things, you can't change who you are. You are who you are. So I think that probably came forward with me more than anything else, was trying to treat everybody fairly, and that's important. So, and other than that, just the love of reading, I guess, was the biggest thing that I brought forward with me, is just that joy, which was just emphasized and just reburned into my brain at home, because my mother loved reading. Yeah. And she read all the time, because she didn't even finish high school. She was busy raising 2 kids by herself with no education. So she always told my brother and me her greatest accomplishment was that her 2 kids went to college and got a degree. So it was like, yeah, but Mom, what did you have to do with that? She says, a lot. You just don't realize it.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I think that there is, teachers don't often realize the influence that they have on kids, especially when it comes to learning to read. Mm-hmm. If you have a passion for reading, you can pretty much handle anything and everything, because not only are you reading the words, but you're using your imagination, and you're kind of living outside of yourself, and you could see different things. And it's funny, I had to write this down, because when I was thinking about it last night, as I was kind of putting this together, the thing that I learned in elementary, and that has stayed with me forever and ever, is this. And Allie, I know you'll appreciate that. There are a lot of people who didn't listen to their teachers' grammar lessons, and they're making me nuts.
Amen.
Yes. Grammar Nazi here.
Yeah. I don't know why that stuck with me, but it did. And I can, if I'm reading something that someone has written and they misuse those words, I hone in on them like a laser beam.
That's
I know. It's people spoke in English.
Same thing. That's just,
yeah.
What? Sorry, Allison?
I said I do the same thing, especially with the there. It's like
or here, or where, and
all of them.
Yeah. When I see that like on a professional website or letterhead that goes out, and I'm like, you didn't have 10 minutes to read this and make sure
it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse because of AI. It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And I think
So
I-
our
I taught-
faculty's
it
already
started
preparing for the
when
chat.
they started to teach how to read by recognizing
Mhm.
recognizing the
Mhm.
word.
Yeah.
No, I really was against that, and yeah, I made sure that with my son, you're going to learn how to sound it out, so that there is not a word out there that you're not going to be able to pronounce, or at least have some idea of how to pronounce.
Mhm.
Right?
I
Yeah,
have
no,
to
I
throw in
didn't.
here
I didn't. Yeah, that was
when
well, at
my
least in
son
Canada.
started. I'm sorry,
Sorry.
Sharon. Go ahead.
Well, at least in Canada and in British Columbia, that whole word kind of teaching reading was called Learning 2000 or something. Anyways, I never threw out my tried and true.
Yeah.
I
No.
don't. I won't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, of course, over the years of you're a teacher for 40 years, and you're seeing all these things either coming around again, and
Yes,
didn't
of
work the
course.
first time. You just what you have to do is use your own discernment and your horse sense, and you go with that.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
know when my son started first grade and they were using a new reading element on how to teach children how to read. Spelling didn't count.
Exactly.
Just write it out and spell it the way you think it sounds. And they weren't concentrating on the vowels at all. Vowels aren't important. Just worry about the consonants. And I remember his dad looked at him and said, "You want to be the stupidest kid in school?" He says, "Spelling does count. It always counts, and you will spell it correctly." So we wound up his first 2 or 3 years in school. We wound up teaching him
Mhm.
phonetics, just basic phonetics, how to sound out a word, spelling. Because sure enough, by fourth grade, spelling started counting, and there was a whole lot of kids that were suddenly flunking in school because they couldn't spell worth of crap.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
up to that point, they'd been told spelling doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
And
then you know what?
Bad habits.
It would make sense that for a child, they would probably say, okay, if you didn't tell me the truth about that, what else are you lying to me about? What else am I going to come to school with next week? And you're going to say, oh, okay, 2 + 2 isn't 4 anymore. Yeah, totally get that.
Yeah, but once you start teaching a child, it goes in here, and that's what they remember first.
Yes.
So then they have to relearn how to really spell once
Yeah.
they have all that stuff in there.
Yeah, exactly. And it is unfair.
Mm-mm.
So I just quickly want to go back and say hello to everyone that has come in here. I think there's 33 of you, if not more. So I have seen each and every one of you, and I'm grateful that you're here, as are my sisters, believe me. We love knowing that you're here and that you're exchanging things with each other. That's a very good way. We learn by telling each other stories, right? Because we pick up on things that are important, and that's kind of what we share. So thank you for all of you for being here. And also wanted to mention too that we can see all the chat. You, however, if you're in a particular channel, you can only see the chat in that channel. Okay, so don't forget, when the video is done, go back and visit the other ladies' channels. Make sure that you give them a like, a share, and a subscribe, and all that good stuff, because it really does matter. It does matter. So, and you'll make all of us happy. So,
and leave a comment. It dings the algorithm.
yeah, even if it's an emoji, a thumbs up emoji. Yeah, it does that. It does that. I will also remind you all that on Saturdays, we are going to be posting, it's a little thumbnail, and it says Sisters of the Mystical Tarot Guidelines and Rules. And when you see that pop up, it's in the comment section of that you can put in your questions that you would like us to read on, or anything, if you want to us to take a look at something, put it there in the comments and we will bring it up on Wednesday. So this week we don't have we don't have any questions. So, that's, yeah. Low energy here tonight. Heat is bad. Oh, sorry to hear that, Flag. Yeah,
it's
I
been
know.
hot here too.
Well, yeah, know what that's like. Yesterday it was so hot I could barely stand it, and today it's been raining all day. So there you go. Okay, our last question, and Val, you're up.
Okay.
Is how did your elementary school experience contribute to who you are today?
God, that's so hard. Because for me, the elementary school experience was like somebody from an alien planet getting put into this group of this school. And you are like, what is this? Why am I even here?
Yeah.
I was bored the whole time and I couldn't wait for it to be over. But what I learned was how to be independent and think for myself, how to create thoughts and ideas on my own. So critical thinking came from elementary school.
Perfect.
And just like Sherry, I could read, even when I was in elementary school, but really even in middle school, I could read at a college level because I read Shakespeare, I read all these great works, and even Dante's Inferno. So I'm saying, that is where I am. So I did learn independence and how to think for myself.
Metatron, Thursday.
Thursday sounds good.
So just be ready. I thought that was such a cute comment. So, yeah, that's wonderful, Val. Yeah, you need to be able to think critically, right?
What? You learn not to rely on everyone else's opinion of you or thoughts about the world or any of that. You become a free thinker.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And how about you, Allie?
I've been sitting here trying to figure out a good thing to say. I hated junior high, so I'm glad this is elementary because junior high was like the pits.
Yes, it was.
But there are two things I think that I recognize now as being why I am the way I am about a certain thing, and it's called authoritarianism. Because we had that kid that took the notes about who was talking when the teacher left the room, or the patrol leader that tried to send me back to school because I wasn't in line correctly. And I just, no, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to school. I'm not. That's, it's this power thing that goes to the heads of the people that get given just a little bit of power.
Yeah.
And, again, I don't want to be negative, but I'm thinking to myself, and I just don't like power figures. I don't like dealing with anybody. But I also, in a good way, decided probably about then that I did want to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. So, that was good. And I wasn't going to be that kind of a teacher,
Exactly.
Because I couldn't do that. But that stupid class monitor and that stupid, also when you have somebody throwing spitballs in your hair, and then you tell on them, the teacher makes them come to class with a jar full of spitballs, drop them on the floor and pick them up one by one. And then they get back at you because you told on them. And so you get more spitballs in your hair or swatsies in the bathroom that fall. Yeah. Have you ever had a swatsie fall on your head? It's toilet paper. Somebody wets the toilet paper and throws it up on the ceiling. And it comes down and hits you in the head. Yeah. So,
it'll stay there until it starts drying out, and then
it does drop. It does. So yeah,
Allie, we must have gone to some of the same schools.
I
Uh-huh,
think we did. I think we did, Sherry.
absolutely.
Anyway.
And Sharon, how about you?
Yeah, like Allie, I always knew I was going to be a teacher, and the teachers commented. This was when I got into public school, from grade 5 to 7. They would tell my mother, your daughter is going to be a teacher. And I know I often wonder why they said that. And they said, we see her hiking up the little ones to the water fountain so they can take a drink, or if someone's a little in trouble, she's there. I also was a crossing guard, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I also noticed that, especially in that Catholic school, I mean, there was a few good teachers, but the ones that were awful. And um, we had some First Nation students in our school, and they
Ooh.
treated them so differently and so cruelly. And in my little mind, I couldn't figure out why.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, because we're not born
In our love.
prejudiced.
no. Fortunately, I came from a family that accepted everybody. I mean, during World War II in Canada, my grandparents would welcome the soldiers into the home, including American soldiers, including Black American soldiers, and feed. My grandmother would put extra potatoes on the pot and stuff like that, feed them all, and then there'd be dancing. Right?
Yes.
They just had a great time. And then my mother, who was 10 at the time, would come down the stairs, and she was stepping over all these sleeping soldiers on the floor. Right? So I came from that kind of background.
Nice.
For example, I think of my own family. My oldest daughter is married to a Métis. My youngest daughter isn't married now, but was married to a fellow that came from Pakistan. Their father, like my
Yeah.
husband, Chinese. Like I have an international family, and it's always been that way.
Yeah.
We welcome international students into our home of all stripes. So
Yeah.
it's just how. Anyway, so what I learned, I guess, then was to really cheer for the underdog and help the underdog, and I just always knew I was going to be a teacher. And I'm glad I did, because even though women, even at that time, it was a lot of teachers and nurses, although it was really opening up. I had
Yeah.
friends who were doing different things. For example, a friend of mine became the first Canadian female pilot for Air Canada, and was the captain of, the huge jumbo jet, right? She just retired a few years ago. And so it was starting to open up, but I just always knew I was a teacher.
Yep. Yep.
I'm glad I did, because
Totally get that.
it was a fantastic career. Every year is different. And of course, you're learning new things all the time, and of course, new methods. And of course, what I did was I took, that makes sense. I'll incorporate that, or that's just a rehash of what we used to do 30 years ago, and it didn't. As I said, it didn't work then. But I guess elementary school taught me diversity. I just noticed the diversity around me.
Perfect. And how about you, Allison?
Can you say the question one more time, the way this one's worded?
How did your elementary school experience contribute to who you are today?
Okay. I would have learned this anyhow, but it started with being on time to the bus stop, getting ready for school, walking out the door on time, making sure I ate breakfast. That my mom didn't do these things, so I did these things. All the things that you have to do to get ready, having my clothes ready, all of this. It was because I had to be at school that I learned it. So also I learned, and again, this isn't directly to school, but it was because of school. And I'm trying to figure out a positive way to spin this, but I learned that there were smart kids like some of my friends that were just my friends. Oh, they're a smart kid. Oh,
Yeah.
that one's not so bright, which is terrible. But you
Yeah.
learn this by how they're treated, what is said, how you time on things, how your grades, just all of it. And I learned that people are, I didn't really learn about racism because I was in an all white area. And I
Yeah.
was kind of, I guess I didn't even know for the longest time. That wasn't until later. But I knew that people were categorized kind of by intelligence and that sort of thing. And I had a group of girls that didn't end up treating me very nicely after they had been my friends. And so I just learned how all that stuff works.
Yeah.
Which is school, but it's not. It happened there.
Yes.
And I don't know.
Yeah. It started there. Yeah.
It's like that's what comes forward when I think about that. It's like all of that kind of stuff was very much elementary for me, and which did have an effect on my life later. So, and it's some of it bad, some of it's good. It's life. We
Yeah.
all have painful things that happen and this, that, and whatever. But I learned a lot of social stuff that carried over. Is how
Yeah.
I would, and taking care of me, and just if you're not at the bus on time, you miss the bus, and then nobody's there to take you to school, and like all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff too. So, but anyways, that's mine.
Golf ball hit my house.
Oh,
What's
I'm
that?
on a golf course. That's the golf course.
okay.
It hit my
I was like, what on earth?
Yeah. Oh
Wow.
my gosh. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have
Yeah, I
anything
said
else?
that was mine. I'm done. Yeah.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, absolutely. And how about you, Sherry?
Well, I think for me, school kind of re-emphasized what my mother was trying to teach us, and that was, while she was teaching us, we're all the same. You're not different. You're not better than or less than somebody else because of they're a boy or because they're black or because they're Native American or whatever. I mean, she was basically the black sheep of the family because she was so progressive in her beliefs.
Yeah.
And then I went to school where a lot of that stuff was just really treated like, well, that's just the way it is, and so we keep doing it that way instead of making a change. So that kind of always stuck with me, the fact that we're all the same. Nobody's better than anybody else. That and my love for reading, because that was just kind of re-emphasized. It's funny because by the time I got to high school, my best friends, the ones that I hung out with, our little group, our gang, as we called ourselves, they were like the smart kids. And I wasn't. I mean, I'm not a stupid person. I have a fairly decent IQ, fairly decent common sense. But these were like on the next level up smart kids, and it used to puzzle me in high school why these smart kids wanted to hang out with me. Because one, I wasn't on the same level as them intellectually, and two, I was a poor kid in a rich kid's school, so we didn't have, I didn't have my own car. We didn't have a fancy house. We didn't have a pool. We didn't have, all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, I guess because they just felt like they could hang out with me at my house and just be treated normal, nobody.
Maybe they just thought you were a good person.
Yeah, just and I'm still friends. I mean, granted, we don't live anywhere near each other now, but I mean, I still keep up with that group of girls that I hung out with in high school, and yeah, they all went on to become really, really, really smart adults that did really big jobs, you know, but
Yeah.
that's where their brains was at. Now I work at a university with really, really, really smart people. So I figure, you know,
Yep.
school helped me learn at an early age how to interact with people who are kind of on another level intellectually, you know,
Yeah.
somebody that you know is just mountains smarter than you are, you know. Um, and to kind of bring them down to just be normal. You don't have to impress me with what you know and don't know, and just be yourself. And so I think that's the biggest thing was just learning. I think I learned how to accept everybody where they're at and where they're coming from and just make them feel wanted and appreciated for just who they are, not because of how many letters come after their name, you know. And so, I mean, hopefully, I think I've taught my son the same thing pretty much. So, um,
Exactly. Because you know
my
what?
brother's a teacher, you know, my
Yeah.
brother teaches high school math. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you a glutton for punishment? I mean, but, and I work in computer science at the university. So
Yep.
I know there's a big push now of trying to get students in for STEM. And, and so it's like every time one of the professors say something about it, I give him my brother's name and email address and say, he teaches high school math. Talk to him.
Yeah.
He's now working on 2 or 3 projects with several of my faculty on how to implement STEM better in schools, you know, because he's a really, really good teacher. And I mean, I really am amazed at how good of a teacher he is. And his kids all love him, you know. I mean,
It's probably because he has such a passion for what he's doing.
yeah,
And I think that's what
absolutely.
all, when you have a passion for what it is that you're doing, it's really easy to teach that to the kids, and it's easy for them to accept it because they see your excitement in it, and they can find the same excitement. And then
Yeah.
don't forget too, there's the IQ intelligence, and then there's emotional intelligence. And yeah, I think the um, for for me, and just almost getting ready to close down here. We're at 57 minutes. Well done.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, um, for me, it was a lot of using my imagination, because yeah, like most of you, I was an avid reader. I would pick up anything and everything to read, to get into my mind and whatnot. Um, and after I was finished with a lot of the sort of the kids books, I would go into the history books, and I would you know read about the history of Canada and all that kind of stuff. And um, it taught me to use my imagination. It taught me to see things from a different point of view. And I can
Mm.
see that in my life now, that yeah, that's one of the things that I will often fall back on is, when if I hear a statement, or I read something, I automatically go to the question of, okay, how does this apply to me? Where is it coming from? Why do they want me to think this way? It's that critical
Critical
thinking,
thinking. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And yeah, it hasn't failed me until now. So I think that I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, my favorite subject was social studies. I mean, I was a great reader, but social studies, and I think, I love learning about other cultures and that sort of thing. So I
Yeah,
think, yeah, that I certainly took that away from elementary school.
absolutely. And I was, and I've mentioned this to Allie a while back. When I went back to university as a mature student, I was on my way to being a teacher. That's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to teach social studies.
Yeah.
And when I got into university was the year that they changed the program and then made it an after degree program. So there was no way that the first year I could have taken enough courses to be able to get into that. Because up until then, your first year was general studies, and then you said, no, I'm going to go into education, and off you went. So, but anyway, it all worked out exactly the way that it should have.
Mhm.
So, thank you, all of you for being here. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and that's wonderful. I think, as I said, that usually for me, that's how I learn more about myself, when I hear other people's experiences. So
Yep.
thank you. And thank you, all of you in the chat, for being here, for joining us, for, as I said, for
Absolutely.
sharing your ideas and some of your past remembrances. And hopefully you'll go back and revisit some of those things. So on that note, I will say good night to each and every one of you. And don't forget, next week we are going to be on Val's channel. So look for the thumbnail on Saturday, put in your questions, and we will see you next week.
Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Good,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody.